to the Efed podcast, the podcast exploring our fantasy wrestling hobby where the wrestling is written, but the characters are real. I'm your host, Mikey Unlikely, and I'd like to thank you for joining us here on the Atomic Dropcast Network. Welcome back to another edition of the Efed podcast here on the Atomic Dropcast Network. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm your host, Mikey Unlikely, and joining us, as always, now, Brian, the co-host and producer of the show. Brian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, sir?
I'm doing great. I am having a good time. It's been a great night, and we've been on the horn already forever, Brian.
Hey, playing a little catch up, dealing with some business ventures and whatnot. We're always putting our hands in something it shouldn't be in. Hold on, wait.
Speaking of which, Brian, this is going to be a fun arc in Defiance. We found out at the pay-per-view that, in fact, it will be you and I moving forward against each other.
Indeed. Scott Douglas, new number one contender for Mikey Unlikely's long-running fist reign.
That's right. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be a fun arc working with you, buddy. I'm excited to beat your ass. I mean, whatever it is that's going to happen. No, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Don't forget who has the final editing privileges on the website.
Oh, shit. Damn it. All right. So we're going to get into that and much, much more. We're going to have a fun feud. But as we're recording, Brian, just today, we got to talk about it. I'm sure you're excited. Carson Wentz traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a third-round pick this year. Second, possible first next year. What are your thoughts?
I assume that means he gets the best horse. Like he's like whatever you call the litter of horses. Like he gets the pick of the litter. Horses have litters, right?
I'm not sure how that works.
Is it horses? Is that the plural of horse?
I think it's horsies, but I'm sure Twitter will correct us, if not our Discord.
Hey.
So we're going to get into that. No, Brian is not the football guy, and
not at all. Drew Giseo.
But that's why we're here on the Efed podcast. Am I right?
You are right, sir.
So today on the show, we've got Ben. Ben is the handler of CK Butcher over in shootproject.com. And we're at Shoot Pop Pop at shootproject.com. And of course, on the spotlight today, guys, we've got World Elite Wrestling. If you're into promo feds, then World Elite Wrestling is one that you should check out over on the Twitter machine.
100%. And they have jumped on board with this wily partnership between me and Mikey that is called efedtees.com. And man, both the interest and support coming from the WEW people is amazing. We've got all kinds of shirts for them already, more in the works, plus some big news.
Yeah, that's right, guys.
Up?
As of now, you can go over to wew.efedtees.com, and that's where you can check out the exclusive store for World Elite Wrestling. They've got it over there. WEW, you can check out their Fed t-shirt. They've got one for their exclusive brands. They've got some for their wrestlers and so much more. Check it out at wew.efedtees.com. Of course, if you guys want a custom t-shirt for your Fed, your character, your tag team, or your stable, or anything else, we got hoodies, t-shirts, beanies, hats, whatever you're looking for, over at efedtees.com, ewtees.com. Also on the show today, the question of the week. We're going to be comparing our fictitious wrestlers to real ones, and I'm excited to see what people think. Basically, we're going to see what their inspirations are.
Exactly. It's always intriguing to see, especially if you know the character and you have read it. It's intriguing to see how do they view the character versus how you may just simply from having read it.
Yeah, it's a matter of perception, and we're going to get into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Brian, get ready because I'm going to ask you the same question. Compare Scott Douglas to a real wrestler.
Oh, shit.
So we're going to get into that. I keep on saying that because I have had a few drinks, and it's a lot of fun. So you can catch us over on the Twitter machine at the Efed Podcast. Of course, that's where you can find the question of the week pinned to the top of the profile. Right now, the question of the week that's posted is one of selfies. Go over there. Post a picture of yourself so we can see the handler behind the character.
Behind. I got nothing. Behind.
Yeah. Great support, Brian. Over on Facebook, you can find us at the Efed Podcast. And of course, over on YouTube now at youtube.com/c/the Efed Podcast,
Or
our
just
exclusive channel.
Or just go to your YouTube on that search bar, Efed Podcast. You'll find it quick and ready, on a hurry. It'll be the first top result.
Brian, I worked hard to get that channel name. Damn it. Let me chill the channel name.
But it's just a long address.
It's a long address, youtube.com/c/the Efed Podcast. Damn it. No, not damn it. Don't put damn it at the end.
Don't put damn it. That gets you a whole other deal. We're not really promoting that one right now. It's kind of a side thing, kind of an OnlyFans-ish situation. It's for a select few.
Speaking of OnlyFans, you can catch us over on Patreon if you want to support the show. Of course, this is a free podcast. We love your support over at patreon.com/Efed Podcast. We've had another new addition this week. We're excited to have them on board. We're excited to have any of you on board who decided to join us. That's where you can get some extras like the ad-free version of the show, the early version of the show. You can get the monthly edition of whatever we do, whether it be a question of the week, a bad graps, or so much more. And we've been mixing it up a lot lately, Brian.
100%. And also, much in the theme of wrestling, early, much like cards, is subject to change.
As Colin found out very quickly.
The definition of early. It'll always be early. Just depends on what time period you're looking at.
That's right. You can catch us over at patreon.com/Efed Podcast. And we greatly appreciate any support.
And of course, always don't forget, worst comes to worst, Efed Podcast.com.
And we've got some heat lately on the Twitter machine. Surprise, surprise.
Say word.
Over the amount of commercials we got on the show. What do you think about that?
Hey, look, there are bills. They must be paid. It's free for everyone who wants it for free, but it ain't free for us.
And also, if you'd like to add your Fed to the commercial list, you can catch us on Twitter at the Efed Podcast. Hit us up in the DMs. We'd love to have you as a sponsor and get your stuff on the show. Speaking of commercials, guys, before we get into the show, please enjoy a word from our sponsors.
This is Lee Best, the GOD of HOWrestling.com, coming to you live from the High Octane Studios, where we are one of the official sponsors of the Efed Podcast. Join us every Saturday night at 7:30 on twitch.tv/HOWrestling, where we present live to you Refueled, the premier RP destination for all Efed.
The Efed Podcast is a totally free podcast that drops each and every single week for your e-wrestling ears on a multitude of apps. If you'd like to support the show, however, the best way to do so is over at patreon.com/Efed Podcast. For as little as $3 a month, you can support both Brian and myself as we crank out more e-wrestling content with perks such as early releases and special Discord designations. And if that's not enough EW action for you, jump up to the $10 a month tier and you can get a free EWT's t-shirt design, early and ad-free editions of the show, as well as access to our monthly Q&As, bad graps, and more. And if you'd like to be a sponsor on the show and get your ad played, the best way to do that is the sponsor level on Patreon, with all of the previous perks plus weekly commercials on the show. Check it out over at patreon.com/Efed Podcast. We greatly appreciate your consideration.
Occupy Pro Wrestling, putting the smart back into smart mark since 2012, with a community on Discord and message boards, merchandise, a weekly vodcast on Twitch, and much more. Check out everything from us and our site partners at OccupyProWrestling.com.
Efed Tees, the #1 source for Efed merchandise, offering custom merchandise made for your wrestler, tag team, stable, or Efed. Whether you want a high-quality t-shirt, face mask, hoodie, hat, it doesn't matter. We can help you out over at EfedTees.com. Do you have a custom logo for your wrestler? Awesome. We're going to slap it on a shirt and help you out real fast. If not, no problem at all. We have a custom design service too. You can work with a graphic artist to get the perfect design made for your character. Go on over to EWTees.com and click on Want a Shirt to get your shirt started. EfedTees.com.
Defiance, an angle fed boasting 8 years of continuous fantasy wrestling. Defiance offers opportunities for original characters, micros, a standalone website utilizing Backstage 3 script, and a forum hosted on the long-running FWrestling.com, as well as a roster full of some of the most experienced writers in the game. Come see for yourself at DefianceWrestling.com. That's DefianceWrestling.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Efed Spotlight segment. This week on the Efed Spotlight, it's World Elite Wrestling, WEW. You guys can check them out on Twitter at the official WEW, at WEW_Riot, and at the official NXE. World Elite Wrestling is a promo fed on Twitter, and they have 3 different brands. That's why you have 3 different Twitters. They have Evolve on Tuesdays, they have Riot on Thursdays, and a developmental brand, Next Elite, on Wednesdays.
Very nice. We've had a lot of fun with these guys since meeting them here recently. And you are obviously, Mikey, and I'm not that familiar. So how exactly does this Fed operate?
Really good guys, like you mentioned, Brian. We've been working with them over at EfedTees.com. That's where you can find their official merchandise at wew.efedtees.com. But of course, as the Fed, it operates as a hybrid eFed. They have poll-based results on Twitter decided by, quote-unquote, the fans. Adult-led by a board of directors with each brand having its own GM and creative, and it's owned by @Many-Faced-Heel, who we've also been working with as well.
Oh, yeah, so you mentioned this is a hybrid Fed. In what way?
So mainly role-playing as unique characters. They're made by each roster member, of course, but they're pushing their matches with video or text-based promos on Twitter.
Okay.
The storylines by the respective GMs play out based on team results or angles created to try to get roster members momentum.
Oh.
So it is a hybrid in the fact that, yes, you're role-playing, you're doing your video promos, but it's almost angle in the fact that they're trying to get the best storylines out of you.
No, 100%. That's awesome. That's a very unique take on hybrid, even within the fact that it's, to me at least, it's a very unique take given the whole promo fed or text-based video. I've seen a few of these videos; they're very interesting.
It is interesting, and Brian, not only I mentioned this show's on Wednesday, this show's on Thursday, this show's on Tuesday. And not only is it that, but it's every single week. This is a big Fed. They've got a show weekly, 3 shows weekly, plus pay-per-views once a month, similar to a WWE schedule. And they also have holiday specials in play as well. So it's quite active. There's a show going on all the time, whether you're involved or not.
Wow, yeah. So they're really in. Yeah, I mean, and you have to have a large roster to support that for sure. So when it comes to rules, and we always talk about word limits, and given as a promo Fed, this might be kind of gray territory. What are we looking at for rules and word limits here?
Very gray territory. Good analogy, because as far as word limits go, I don't know how that works in a promo Fed. On the outside looking in, there's no limit to how many promos you can cut on one match. But the rules on where it's shared and not saying, you can't just say, hey, vote for me. It's got to be a straight promo, and you got to hope that the fans, quote unquote, vote for your character.
Okay.
The main rule is to participate with their promos for the match. Lots of detailed rules that are specific to each brand. You'll have to check those out, of course, through WEW and @Many-Faced-Heel. But WEW is for everyone is the mentality. They have many rules against racism, bullying, sexism, sexual orientation, etc.
All inclusive.
Yeah, so they try to include everybody. They have a good time. They do these video promos, and like you said, the ones that you've seen have been interesting. I've seen quite a few. I have a lot of fun with it, and I think it's a cool place to hang out. These guys have been very active with us as well.
100%. Yeah, I mean, just through their dealings with us, they're obviously really doing it because the since linking up with them, the interest from their handlers has been very varied and large. Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Yeah. So as the active championships they've got, Brian, it's going to get a little complicated here because they've got different brand titles. So like we mentioned, they do have a large roster. I'll go ahead and knock that out now as well because, Brian, overall, they have over 100 handlers.
Holy shit.
On their Evolve roster, they've got 40. On their Riot roster, they've got 35. And the NXE developmental brand, they've got 32 characters. It's pretty insane what they're doing over there at WEW. I can't imagine the scale.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. As you mentioned before, we have the WEW shirt, we have the WEW Evolve, and the WEW Riot shirt, and the NXE is the next one up. We're actually I'm working with Miniface Heel now to get that one going, and that to hear those numbers actually,
it's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it really makes the interest and the movement we've seen since linking up with them make complete sense.
A lot of excited people.
Yes.
So over as far as direct titles goes, they do have a women's championship that is hanging above all the brands, so it's available to any brand. These championships are under the Evolve brand: the Evolve World Championship, the Internet Championship, the National Tag Team Championships, and the Ladder Match Championship.
Oh, like that one. That's very interesting.
Yeah, because you beat my ass in a ladder match once.
I mean, shades of things to come. Also, over
hold on.
hey, on the Riot brand, Riot World Championship, the American Championship, the World Tag Team Championships, and the Anarchy Championships.
That sounds like a fun title.
It's got to be, right? That's got to be some kind of hardcore something, right? Like,
it's got to be, yeah, some kind of fun stipulation. So on the NXE brand, they've got their NXE Championship, of course, their NXE New Age Tag Team Championship for the up-and-coming tag teams, and the NXE Openweight Championship, almost like an X division.
Openweight's very interesting. The New Age Tag Team is very interesting. It makes you want to say, oh, you didn't know?
Your ass better listen to the Efed podcast, because here we go with their top 10 wrestlers over at WEW.
Top 10.
They've got the bad guy.
New shirt on EWTs.com. AJ Manuel.
Marcus Gray.
Logan Slater.
Justin Hollis. You can check out the House of Hollis shirt over at efedtees.com.
MFH, the mini-faced heel. Shirts coming very soon. They're in the works.
Cletus. You can check out the Cletus shirt. Cletus for President over at efedtees.com.
Kite Man.
Shredder.
Dr. Skull.
He's a fun promo. James Reed.
Kyle Quinn.
Sick Boy.
Mary Jade.
The Brooklyn Savage, and many more over at the WEW. Of course, this top 10 is not ranked in any order. It's just a inclusion of some of their roster. Guys, remember, you can find them on Twitter at the official WEW. You can find them on Twitter at WEW_Riot for the Riot brand, and at the official NXE for the developmental brand. And we mentioned their giant roster. As far as the rest of the Fed goes, Brian, they have the distinction of launching the Twitter Efed poll-based style, with 40-plus Efeds spawning off their style since early 2020.
Trendsetters.
The hybrid storyline roleplay style mixed with the results mainly coming from Twitter posts sets them apart. They have video promos, text promos, characters with unique names and stories, custom pay-per-view names, and video work done for all of their pay-per-views. Basically, regardless of how you're trying to play the game, as long as you're into the video aspect or cutting promos on Twitter, this is a fun place to do it.
100%. And having dealt with them mostly via graphics, I've seen quite a few, and they have some pretty well put together, very professional looking graphics off the top. So that, I mean, if that's something you're looking for, they have that.
And actually, I think the Fed had recently got a actual custom world championship made for his Fed. And it was done by Pro-Am Belts. Of course, you can check them out on Twitter. You just go ahead and search Pro-Am Belts. I checked out some of their work as well. It looks pretty good.
100%.
So, guys, check out WEW. Again, they're an inclusively Twitter fed. You can find them at the official WEW, and as well as their other links, WEW_Riot and the official NXE.
And look out for that new NXE shirt coming very soon to EWTs.com.
.com.
Hey, this is Deshaun Morris, the creator of Sean Parker at Hale Parker, and you're listening to the Efed Podcast.
It's time for everybody's favorite segment, the Efed Podcast Question of the Week. Of course, you can find the Efed Podcast Question of the Week pinned to the top of that profile for the 2 count. Over on Twitter at the Efed Podcast. It's always pinned to the top, so you can't miss it. Also, you can find it in our Discord channel and the hashtag Efed Question of the Week channel. That's a great place to pop in and answer the question if you don't want to be limited to Twitter's 200 and some odd characters.
Shame.
Shame. Brian, this week's question of the week, I hope you're ready to answer because I'm going to hit you with it.
Let's see.
If you had to choose a real-life wrestler that is most like your fictitious wrestler from any era, who would it be?
Bob Holly.
Because he wants to win the belt and then beat everybody?
Yeah, simply for his booking. No. Honestly, my main character, Scott Douglas, would 100% be. If I'm gonna go to like my references, like my era references when I was paying attention and watching and really loving this, it would be Raven, 100%. But just build and look and type, I'd have to say CM Punk. Although I didn't really see that much of his run.
Somewhere in there, he's like CM Raven.
Yeah,
grunge, punky. Yeah. And Mikey Unlikely is very much The Rock, The Miz, Ric Flair.
I can see The Miz for sure.
That's what he gets compared to a lot. And that's fine. I like The Miz. I think he's fun.
100%.
So let's see what we got from the rest of you guys on the Twitter machine, Brian.
At Luke_Marshall 22.
I'd have to say a mix of Murphy, McIntyre, and Cesaro.
Oh, that's a hell of a mix.
That's right.
At Candy Lands Queen.
Initially, I based my character off a lot off of a mix of Solo Darling and NXT babyface Bailey. I loved Bailey in NXT.
Flailing inflatable arm tube man.
That's right.
At Distorted Amber.
Possibly original ECW Raven. Hey.
Okay. I see you.
Matching up with Brian.
There you go.
I see you.
At Daniels_Brett.
James Storm and Dusty Rhodes.
All right,
you're a little southern twang.
You're going to have to really pick a body type, though.
One or the other.
Those two couldn't be further apart at the same age. Love Dusty Rhodes. At Bane_Mac.
Arn Anderson, in my honest opinion.
There you go.
Love a good Arn Anderson.
Can't go without a good Arn Anderson. I'm going to butcher this one. At A55-HOLE at asshole.
What I've got listed on this app is 1, Evan Bourne, 2, Sammy Guevara, 3, Jack Evans. Some high flyers on that list.
Okay.
I once caught a Jack Evans cigarette at an indie show.
Oh, wow. I don't even know who that is. At BetterThanYou_TD.
Thad, difficult to answer because Thad's kind of a hybrid in technical ability and high-flying daredevil shit. But if I had to choose one, I'd say HBK.
Good choice. Round of applause for that, man.
Brian's all-time favorite.
At the Roozy one.
Shane Helms, without the superhero gimmick, the goofiness is the same.
Oh, okay. All right.
Gotta love it. Shane Helms has always been entertaining.
He hates Sean, so I'm not really a fan of him. Anyway, at Mom's Best Bowie.
WCW Jericho and Enzo Amore, the big mouth dumbass, just funny enough to be charming rather than annoying.
Oh.
I don't know. Enzo's pretty annoying.
He is, but before everything went really downhill, he was a pretty great shit talker. Like,
I'd still pay to see him.
Well, as long as it's not a rap concert. Next up, speaking of nightmares, at Midwest Nightmare.
Stan Hansen, maybe.
Okay. Big mustache.
Good lariat for you.
Big lariat. Mikey, what's the difference between a lariat and a clothesline?
Brian, you run into a clothesline. A lariat runs into you.
Oh. Okay. Speaking of things you can run into, at Whammy Bar.
At Whammy Bar, maybe if Jeff Jarrett's swinging it.
Hey.
A cross between Chris Jericho and 90s era Shawn Michaels. Their match at WrestleMania was great.
At Titanus Sam.
Beth Phoenix.
Quick and to the point. You got to love it. You love to see it, Christy.
You love to see it, Beth.
At Kalaweezy2220.
Either Shawn Michaels or CM Punk. I've borrowed a fair bit from both. Hard to argue. Both are athletic. Both are smaller guys, so I could see being a fan of either.
Yeah. I'm just realizing I completely misunderstood the question, and I was going off of just look.
No. Yeah, just based on how you do your thing. This one's gonna be fun, Brian. You ready for the next one?
I'm probably not because I know this name, and I'm usually not. Next up, last on the Twitter machine, at Armenian Beast.
Armenian Beast. Neuro Muhammad is the Deja Bhutan Beast. Uses AJ Lee as a inspiration.
Okay.
Or most like. Diego Diaz, the Costa Rican Beast, is more like Psychosis. Karma Tenzin, the Bhutanist Beast, a relaxed Dean Malenko, maybe, as if Dean Malenko wasn't already relaxed.
Yeah, no one's more Quaalude than Dean Malenko.
He's Iceman. And of course, Gurjin Havasayan. Brother, you really got to help me out here.
Yeah.
The Armenian Beast, a combination of Eugene the Berserker and Steven Austin.
Holy shit. It's not Steve Austin. Steven Austin.
Huss. That's the old Berserker.
Over on the Discord, the TEFP giant community, but it's there. And first up over there, we've got MDG, our good friend Warren, Modern Day Gladiators.
Looks are Lance Archer. The dude is tall, athletic, and has a sick tattoo on his back of a crucifixion scene of Golgotha. The fact that Archer also claims Jesus as his savior makes him the perfect deacon. Unfortunately, his character isn't that, and HBK is too small to be deacon, even if his late personality fits sorta.
Take the mic away from The Undertaker, give him HBK's Lord of Light gimmick to Undertaker, and your money.
There you go. Lance Archer's a good shout. Really enjoyed his stuff in AEW. Very imposing guy.
Yeah. He's got a very red ponytail. Up next, Rossi Orton.
Out of nowhere, Malik Garland is MJF. Period.
Yeah. No surprise.
He's a douche.
Well, speaking of EWTs, who was speaking of EWTs? Well, I don't know who wasn't. We all should be. Speaking of EWTs, one of our greatest customers, Meg.
This is tricky for me because I've played plenty that I can relate to. If I had to pick one of my characters, it would be Kelly Song, who has a pick base of Gail Kim. But her personality is based off the bitterness that actually came from the pick base when she left WWE and bashed the hell out of them because of the TNA knockout division is superior and better. Don't take this as a bash to her because I am not like that, but the truth does hurt.
Truth can hurt for sure, Meg.
Gail Kim is awesome.
I'll take your word for it. Never saw one match. Up next, Love and Peace. That's good.
Oh, Jakey. Thanks for stopping by, Jakey. Zeb equals Bob Holly as the race car driver gimmick and personality. Bob Holly as the mean ass in actual wrestling. And Bembe Brightwell equals Norman Smiley. I like that reference. Muriel equals Bastion Booger, a sexual one. And QT Reese equals Tracy Smothers. Rest in peace to the goat.
Well, I think with Zeb and the Bob Holly deal, he missed the main thing you really need out of Bob Holly. You need Bob Holly's booking.
How about I win the belt?
The way he would have preferred to have been booked if asked.
And then I beat everybody.
Pile of bodies. Up next, Tony with a soft Y.
Tony, I feel like Dominic Sanders is very Austin Theory.
Is that Austin Theory with a soft Y, though?
Yeah, baby.
Hey.
Oh, that's Austin Powers.
Close enough. Up next, Cat Pasadena.
Pat Cassidy lives the lifestyle of a young Ric Flair with the demeanor of a young Dusty Rhodes. Ned Reform is a rookie Kurt Angle before he was the wrestling machine and was still arrogant and clueless. I love it. Pat Cassidy's a great character. Really, I really feel the Dusty Rhodes tones in the character.
Up next, Alias with a soft D, but a hard G.
It's pretty tricky to nail Alias down, but Mankind circa 97 interviews with JR serves as a great inspiration for the character. We watched that, Brian. That was great stuff.
We did indeed. And I'll also say, when it comes to things that are tricky, especially that are pretty tricky, I will say it's pretty tricky to rock a rhyme. It's pretty tricky to rock a rhyme that's right on time.
It is tricky.
It's tricky.
Tricky.
Up next, that masked guy.
Bray Wyatt. That's it. Quick and to the point. I wonder if he means the Fiend or if he means the more cult leader.
Up next, John Thompson from TW Combat.
My inspiration for John Thompson's personality comes from West Coast Stone Cold and ECW Taz and his wrestling style coming from the early Steiner brothers and a Kurt Angle with a little MMA style. And if I remember right, TW Combat is an MMA fed/camp that helps with MMA feds.
Up next, Alex, happy to be here. Smiley.
Despite having different pick bases over the years, I've realized that Xander Azula is most closely similar to Eric Young. Primarily the version we saw in NXT leading Sanity.
Oh, okay.
That's about right. I recently saw Xander over in High Octane Wrestling in the tournament they have going on, and he fared fairly well throughout.
Very nice. Very nice. I never was a big fan, never like an avid watcher of TNA, but the little I did see, I always liked Eric Young.
Was that the Team Canada era?
A little bit of that, a little bit of him running around with Nash, and later a little bit of, I mean, I say later, maybe it wasn't, but a little bit of like he was scared of his own pyro and that kind of nonsense.
He's always been a fun character and really good wrestler.
No matter what he was given, he did great. I always liked him. So that's a great person to base yourself off, because you can do that and then right the wrongs that once were. It's kind of like Efed Quantum Leap. Shout out to Sam Beckett. And speaking of Sam Beckett's, people who have come back very recently. Up next, last but not least, on the Discord, the power of Strawsifity, Ryan Strassma.
Strasma, Kerry Koriyama, Ricky Steamboat, and Resin is Stoner Sami Zayn.
I can see it. Kerry more of a younger Steamboat, for sure.
Yeah, and Resin with the Sami Zayn. If he's stoned, he needs to quit messing with the Reapers.
Ooh.
Well, very good, guys. Thanks for joining us and answering this week's question of the week. Of course, on Twitter at the Efed Podcast and in the Discord. You can answer each and every week. Check out this week's question of the week right now over on Twitter at the Efed Podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Efed Podcast interview series. Today, we're joined live by Ben, the handler of CK Butcher of Shoot Project. You can catch him over at shootproject.com, otherwise known as Shoot Pop Pop. So glad he taking the time to join us live and in person. Ben, how you doing today, buddy?
I am doing wonderful, and I thank you for, being considerate and giving me the time away from your dinner.
Yes, away from my dinner and inviting you into my home at that.
Absolutely.
So before we get started, Ben, I want to thank you both. I say for both my wife and I for a great evening out at your workplace.
Absolutely.
So my wife and I went out to dinner, and Ben was gracious enough to cover some of the meal. So if you want a free meal, no, I'm kidding.
Hey.
No, but we had a great time, and it was nice getting to know you in person, and that's why we're here again, live together.
Large and in charge.
That's right. So we're going to drink some beer today. So today the Efed Podcast is brought to you by Disco Ninja of Revision Brewing.
Disco Pop Pop.
Disco Pop Pop. Here you go, sir.
Hey, thank you, sir.
All right, and we're going to get started. So I apologize for the quality in advance. Ben and I have to record on the same track, so there's not much Brian can do with the editing, so this one's on me.
Still going to sound good.
Still going to sound great because we got two sexy men here having a drink. So
that's right. Cheers.
Cheers. Shoot Pop Pop.
Pop Pop. To all my brothers out there and sisters.
We're going to talk about Shoot Project, Shoot Pop Pop, and so much more. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the other side of Efeding, where video games come into play and help us come to the results or come to simulation or whatever it is that we're doing. And we're going to talk about that a lot because Shoot Project is based on a Fire Pro system where the characters do their everyday lives. They tell their promos, they tell their stories, and then whatever happens on Fire Pro is how it goes. Isn't that right, Ben?
Yeah, it's strange because you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
You can role play all day long. You can write segments, but Fire Pro is God. They're going to make the decision for you, and then you have to base it off of that.
So the premise of the Fed is technically it's a simulation Fed because your results are simulated.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you're going to tell your stories in between, and whatever happens in the match, whatever happens in the simulation of the Fire Pro match, just that's what happens. That's the story. That's how you move forward.
Yeah, the result is what makes your run.
Has nothing to do with your writing. It's just everything to do with whatever happens.
Yeah, it's chaos at its finest.
I love it, honestly. Shoot Project was one of the ones that when I found it, I was so excited because it was so different. And not only was it so different, but it's so well run. The website looks great. The Twitter machine is well run. Everything from top to bottom you can tell it's a very finished Fed.
Yeah, Josh does a great job with running Shoot, and I've known about Shoot for a long time. Come to find out, when I joined, I knew more than I thought I knew because it's been it's been there since 2001. So I've kind of been, I guess, right along the same track as they have, and I've known people that have been involved with Shoot, or they've got stories of people that I've heard of.
Yeah.
But Josh, in his history, he's always run a good Fed. He knows how to keep everybody kind of corralled.
Yeah.
And he's just very easy to work with, and he's very, very good at bringing people back down to a level so that way they're not getting out of control.
Not letting their emotions get a hold of them.
Yeah, because he's put me in my place a few times. I've reached out to him with my feelings and my thoughts about things, and always have questions, and I do my weekly Josh touch up. I reach out to him and be like, so how we doing? And he's honest. He'll tell you exactly how it is, and that's what I like about where Shoot's at and who runs Shoot. So,
and that's what a good Fed head would do, is they would be honest.
Exactly.
So shootproject.com.
Pop pop.
Check them out, guys. It is a great Fed, and since we hooked up with them, it's been a great relationship both ways. A lot of Shoot guys popped into our Discord channel.
They popped in.
We had a great time. They took hold of the Efed Podcast Top 100 Countdown, and their votes came in strong, and a lot of their guys ended up placing.
Yeah.
Much to the dismay of Twitter. You love to see it, Christy.
You love to see it, Mikey.
So Shoot Project has been a great addition to Efed Podcast. We've featured them a few times on Spotlight, and doing so, we've had some of our Discord members actually join Shoot Project.
Yeah, Liz is there. Of course, Joe, Pat Cassidy,
yes,
Cat Cassidy,
Dr.
Ned Reform. He's got both characters over there. Ross has got Teresa Ames.
Yep.
Running his ASMR. Roland.
Yes.
Is running wild.
Roland and Ross, the Brothers of Destruction.
The Brothers of Destruction, and then we just had Teddy join from How. So. Yeah, a lot of people are heading on over there. It's a fun concept, and it's so easy.
It seems so like easy. It.
It is.
And I was excited to join until all my friends joined, and now I don't want to come over.
Why would you? They don't want you there anyway.
Sorry, Joe. All right, but no, seriously, Shoot Project's a great Fed. Check it out, shootproject.com. But let's not talk too much more about that until we get to the end of your career. Let's talk about where it started. Ben, when you first got into wrestling, when was it? How was it? And when did you start watching?
Well, my older brother used to watch it when I was, since I was a baby. My older brother's in his 40s. So I remember him having all those rubber WWF toys.
Yep.
Andre the Giant, Hillbilly Jim, Hulk Hogan, and seeing those around the house. I never really identified with it until probably like 96.
Okay.
He used to collect sports cards, and I remember he had like the WWF cards as well. I remember finding a couple of Mr. Fuji, and but once again, never identified with it until 96. I moved to Ohio, and I started watching WCW, and WCW was my jam.
WCW, that's interesting.
WCW. I was following TNT and Monday Night Nitro, and Sting was kind of the character to watch, the Crow Sting.
Okay.
NWO was taking over the business, and stables, that stable was where it's at, and you see Hulk Hogan controlling, Kevin Nash, and the guy Scott Hall, who I remember as Razor Ramon, because I had friends that watched WWF too, so I remember seeing Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon and stuff like that. But I started following that, and then that's where it started taking off from there. Okay. Eventually, about a year or so later, I'm getting into the WWF. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. That's a question that was asked.
Ass kicker.
Yes, absolute mud stomping son of a bitch who kicks a lot of ass. But started following WWF and the boundaries that they were crossing, and a lot of the stuff that they were doing on TV, which always kind of thrilled me.
So you started with WCW,
I did.
And Sting was one of the guys who caught your eye right off the bat. Obviously, Crow Sting. So you never saw the Surfer Sting at that point.
I had not. I knew of him.
Okay.
But I had not followed Sting until Crow Sting.
Until now.
Yeah.
So when you see him, it's the Crow.
It's the Crow.
Yeah. That's what you picture it as.
Exactly.
So talk about who else caught your eye in WCW in the beginning. Besides, you mentioned the NWO. You mentioned Sting. What else was it? The Cruiserweights? Was it Harlem Heat? Was it what else about WCW decided that you'd seen wrestling before and now you want to be a fan?
I'll start off kind of where I'm at now when I actually rewatch it, because when I rewatch it, I'm like, wow, WCW actually wasn't as good as I thought it was.
Oh, I think the opposite, man.
Well, I mean, it was good, but some of the stories, like there was just, I don't know, it was a little bit of a mess.
Okay.
But back then, you had that great main event scene, and then like you had mentioned, the Cruiserweights, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. I mean, Halloween Havoc, Guerrero versus Mysterio,
so
one of the best matches of all time.
So
if you want to watch it. Chris Benoit. You had Steven Regal at a point in time in his career. Back then, Steven Regal's out there wrestling his ass off, and he's a little bit bigger than he is now. But yeah, I mean, that wrestling in the ring, and then there was kind of that I don't know, no holds barred aspect of WCW, where you can definitely tell that they're doing whatever it takes to take over the industry.
They were certainly trying to change at that time. Absolutely.
But yes, Sting obviously caught my eye. Eddie Guerrero has always been a big one to watch for me, and it was heartbreaking when he passed away.
Yeah.
Rey Mysterio was a huge one. But I did like Booker T. I thought Booker T and Chris Benoit's series for the series for the United States Championship was so exciting to follow. Sadly, though, getting into it in '96, if you think about it in the long run, you're starting to slowly see the decline as well. Because I mean, I'm not a Bill Goldberg guy. I'm just not a Bill Goldberg guy. And as soon as Goldberg started taking over, and I've held my breath when people were talking about it in Discords and stuff like that, in the wrestling chats. When there's people that still want Goldberg to do well, and I'm just not a big fan of his wrestling. Although
I'm not either.
I did just watch a match where he tag teamed with Rick Steiner against Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell.
Okay.
And he just was kicking Scott Steiner's ass in the ring, and he's
doesn't
super
happen
athletic.
Often. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And he's super athletic, and he wasn't bad, but if you look back at a lot of his matches, it's just some of that's just trash. You know?
It is.
And he was just pushed for how big he was.
It was sad at the Royal Rumble this year. I was more excited for Billy Kay than I was for Goldberg.
Well, a lot of people probably were excited to see Billy Kay. Right?
That's true. But yeah, she was much more entertaining. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. No, I finally watched the Royal Rumble. It's been I don't really watch too much wrestling anymore, but I did actually. I brought back my WWE Network subscription just so that way I can follow it because I love a good Rumble.
Sure.
But anyway, back to WCW, and back to I guess my favorite wrestlers. Then like I said, Eddie Guerrero, Sting, Chris Benoit. I loved watching Chris Benoit wrestle. Rey Mysterio, and then, of course Booker T. Probably be a couple of the best, and Roddy Piper when he showed up out of nowhere. But
it's hard to argue with the Roddy Piper promo.
There you go. Yeah.
So moving forward in your fandom past the late 90s, what else did you get into? Did you stick with WWF or E at the time? And if so, who did you like?
When I first jumped into the World Wrestling Federation, there was a lot of really weird stuff going on. I really enjoyed watching the oddities run around.
Yes.
Which at first, when I brought in the Butchers into the Efed scene for Shoot, I was almost kind of leaning towards more of an oddity stable. But I transitioned from WCW over to WWF, which I'm glad I did because they ended up taking over anyway. But I just really enjoyed what WWF was doing in the Attitude Era, and unfortunately, I'm kind of jumping in to that era. I guess it's not a bad time to jump into it, but once I feel like it was still another. I followed too much WCW, and then once I got into WWF, it was kind of starting to flow out. They were taking over WCW, and then you start getting into the whole Invasion, stealing ECW's thunder, and all of their stars, and Kurt Angle was one of my favorites.
So good.
Yeah. Back then, yes, he was. Oh God, some of the matches. But yeah, it was really hard for me to take away from Sting, so I got into Stone Cold, and I actually have a pair of Stone, but just reviewing and watching and observing wrestling in the past and enjoying stuff that I didn't get to watch when I was younger. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of wrestlers out there that are phenomenal that sadly I couldn't experience their careers. Nick Bockwinkel would be one of them.
Great one.
His matches with Kurt Hennig in 86 and 87, by far some of the best wrestling you'll ever see. He had an hour-long match with Kurt Hennig. Kurt Hennig looking like a young Undertaker and Chris Benoit mix, which is odd. In 86, he's young and he's got that mullet-like haircut, But Nick Bockwinkel, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. Gotta love The Rock. I just grew up with The Rock.
He's so good. Trash talk king.
Yes. Yeah. Jabroni Drive, talking, oh God, kicking everybody's ass. Oh God, it's kind of hard because there's a couple of wrestlers now that I really enjoy watching.
You got to think all-time favorite, the one you're going to put on when you really want to lose yourself in wrestling.
CM Punk.
There you go. Nice answer.
Yeah. I really like CM Punk.
Yeah.
I actually have a T-shirt that I got off of, is that Pro Wrestling Tees or whatever?
I've never heard of it. I've heard of E-Wrestling Tees.
Yeah, E-Wrestling Tees. Yeah. But I've got the shirt of him doing the shoot from the stage.
It's so good. Yeah, the pipe bomb promo, where he
Yep.
sits down and he does the spiel, and it's so real, it's so raw. It felt like the 316 promo.
Yeah.
Of its time.
Yeah. Except for it was a little more controversial in a sense.
It was directed right at Vince, yeah.
Directed right at the man in charge. Can't go wrong. And obviously the CM Punk name has a little bit of an influence on the CK Butcher name.
Obviously, a little
bit. Thank you, sir.
So tell us about how and why and when you found this weird, wild, wacky world of Efed. Yes.
But I got into backyard wrestling, and that's where I started doing kind of like website design with Yahoo and GeoCities and Angel Fire and trying to build websites for backyard wrestling. Eventually, I found fantasy wrestling through that. And it was I actually found through the Wayback Machine the first Fed that I was a part of, which was called No Limit Combat, and that was in 2001.
Okay.
At least that's what the copyright says at the bottom of the website.
The page, yeah.
Right. It was run by a guy named Serge, or maybe Sergey. I don't really know how you pronounce the first name. Serge probably, but Serge Johnson. And I got my younger brother into the Fed as well. But I took my backyard wrestler and brought him into e-wrestling.
Okay.
And this is, mind you, this is about 2000, 2001. So this is pre-9/11.
Okay.
And I bring that up because of who my character was.
I can't wait.
I had a character. So in backyard wrestling, I wore this mask. It was a skull mask that somebody, I don't know where it came from, to be honest with you. I probably did back then, but now I cannot remember where it just showed up. But the mouth was cut open, so I can actually move my mouth up and down through the mask when I spoke. But I never did with this character because he was kind of like this real dark and evil heel.
When you were 12.
When I was preteen.
Yeah.
You know, prepubescent, being an idiot, enjoying professional wrestling, right?
Yes.
But he wore a cape, and he wore this crown, kind of similar to what I've got going on now, that was made out of a hat without a bill.
Okay. And
he came out to a track from the Mortal Kombat trilogy video game that you could put into a CD. They had music that you could play, but his name was The Terrorist. Terrible.
Yeah.
And I had a move called the Terrorizer, which was Farouk's Dominator.
Mm-hmm.
Slam him down. So anyway, I bring the Terrorist over into fantasy wrestling. Eventually 9/11 happens, and honestly, being young, I knew I probably shouldn't. The words terrorist are everywhere at that point, September, 2001.
Do you remember?
I was a sophomore in high school.
The 11th day in September?
Yes. I do. So actually, I wasn't 12 years old. I was a sophomore in high school, and yes, I do remember it was a pretty rough day. But I realized I probably shouldn't use the character, the Terrorist, anymore. Yeah. So I became Vic Viper, which is also a really awful name.
Yeah.
And I was basically Vic Viper, and I was actually the Terrorist Vic Viper for a while before I finally got rid of that character name and just went with Vic Viper. And I kind of bounced around from Fed to Fed because back then a lot of Feds shut down quick. So
when you were in these Feds early on, you're talking role play Feds?
And No Limit Combat, I want to believe it was a role play Fed, but the role plays were terrible. Every single
yeah.
two-liners, like I'm gonna come out there and just whoop your ass, boy.
Yep.
I'm gonna run out there and I'm just gonna kick you in the nuts. I saw role plays that were written that way, and my younger brother he wrote some pretty terrible role plays back then. We both did. But yeah, all these were role play Feds. So no angle Feds. I didn't jump into an angle Fed until probably 2005 or 2006, and I enjoyed it for a short period of time because it shut down pretty quickly.
So Vic Venom is your second character. The Terrorist, your first. I can kind of guess the gimmick of the Terrorist. Tell us about Vic Venom and what separated him from your first character.
Well, Vic Viper.
I'm sorry, Vic Viper.
But
I'm thinking of the old Vince Russo
Vince
character.
Russo, Vic Venom in WWF magazine, right? Mm-hmm. Vic, I don't really know how to really put him into words because I used Taz as my banner rep.
Okay.
And he was just a trash talker. I mean, there really wasn't much to him. There was no gimmick. It was just me kind of being like a bullheaded teenager who wanted to just win all the time.
Yeah.
And, I argued with the Fed heads all the time. Being immature all the time. Staying up on AOL Instant Messenger until like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., all the time. Talking trash with all kinds of people from all over the world.
That's a teenager way to play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Can't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. I've got a curfew. I've got kids. It doesn't happen like that anymore. But he was basically just me trying to Efed.
Yeah. Trying to be yourself.
And being bad at it. But I did win a world title.
There you go.
And then the Fed closed.
Immediately.
The last pay-per-view I win, and the Fed closed.
They said, "Fuck it, we gotta throw it on somebody." No, I'm kidding.
basically, and I wouldn't be surprised because I bitched my way through trying to get there. I'm not like that anymore. I do what I can. I try and be peaceful with my people.
We'll ask Josh on his episode. Thanks.
Do it. He loves me.
So, Vic Viper is your character at this point. You're in a bunch of role play things, and you're probably churning through them at this point, right?
Yeah, it was a really rough journey because it was just one after another. One would shut down, I'd jump to another, and I'd kind of follow some people that I knew,
sure,
or that I became friends with. They'd be like, "Hey, come join me over here," and I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." But yeah, it was just I don't know. It was more fun meeting people than it was really Efed.
Actually playing the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when's the next memorable moment for you?
You'd have to jump to shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing from 2001 up to literally 2020 that I can sit back and go, man, I'm just becoming a writer, and enjoying professional wrestling, but joining shoot and meeting everybody there and realizing that I probably should have been with shoot years ago.
So when's the first time you heard about shoot?
Well, 2006.
Okay.
2006. And it took a little bit when I first, in 2020, actually, I don't, now that I think about it, I think it only took like a day or so, because they thought I was somebody that had already been a part of that Fed.
Okay.
Because I knew so much about what, where shoot has been and some of the people that have joined shoot and so on and so forth, and who has been associated with shoot. But 2006, a couple of friends, actually a guy that I knew that was big into wrestling in person, that I went to high school with, we were in an Efed for a very short period of time called WTF.
What the fuck?
Yeah, basically. I didn't join it. He did, but he was trying to get me to join it, so I guess I consider that I was a part of it. But yeah, what the fuck? It was called Wicked Turmoil Foundation, but I think they based, if I can remember correctly, they based a lot of their ideas off a shoot project.
Okay.
And I think they tried stealing the shoot project's coding or something like that. And if I can remember correctly, my buddy was telling me that there was some sort of altercation online or maybe on their message board or something like that, where some of the people from Shoot Project came over and were harassing the guy that put WTF together, and they were pissed off that Shoot Project's coding got stolen and that there was a bunch of other stupid.
Back in the day, this is very common where people would steal the source code for a website.
Yeah, Notepad, baby. Right click, view source.
Copy and paste. Easy as that. You got a website.
Yeah, exactly. Just steal that HTML. But that's the first time I heard of shoot, and then since then, up until 2020, I never really thought anything of it.
So did you take quite a break between your first e-fedding opportunities and now?
Well, there's quite a few breaks.
Okay.
But up until 2020, I think 2013 might have been my last Fed journey.
Okay.
And it was only for like a few months.
And then you took quite the long hiatus.
Yeah, 7 years.
And so in 2020, what drags you back to e-fedding?
I think the same thing that dragged everybody else back.
Yep.
COVID. I had the time, baby. I had the time. My work was slow.
I love it.
However, I was in a position to where I had the time. Mentally, I was in the right place.
Yep.
And
life had kind of settled down.
Yeah, life is good, and I have more control over my writing, over my organization, my scheduling, and actually, it's funny. I say that, and I think back at all of the times I've said in Shoot Project that, I probably should have not procrastinated, but so I really don't have that much control, but I do have a better grip over handling it. And Shoot makes it so easy to make it easy on me. Yeah,
to be a handler, to enjoy the game, but also not devote all of your time to the EFED.
Exactly. But COVID brought me back. I'm sitting there back in, what was it, May? Okay. May of 2020.
So about 3 months in.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, maybe I can find Efed. And I remember actually coming across some Twitter stuff on Google, and then all of a sudden, where did I find Shoot? I'm trying to remember how I found Shoot, honestly. I don't remember how I found Shoot. I just jumped into their Discord. Maybe there was a post somewhere, but I just jumped into their Discord. And I had Discord downloaded. I just never did anything with it. And all of a sudden I just showed up, and Josh was
Super cool
about it. They talked my ear off. There was a lot of action going on, and they were asking me tons of questions. And I'm a pretty positive guy, so I was consistently just like, dude, I'm so excited to be here.
I can certainly say in my short time knowing you that you are certainly a positive person.
I'm excited to do whatever, to just jump in and do whatever, and which is different than what I was back from 2013 on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I met my wife. I don't know. And
life changes, people mature, we get older, we realize that things that we thought were important were not, and things that we didn't think were important are. So it's just a life-changing experience, and I think the beautiful part of being mature and e-fedding is enjoying the game without the drama.
Yeah, and there's a lot of mature people around right now that make it super easy.
So easy. It's a perfect age group that same people that started in 2000, 2001, 2002, they're still e-fedding today, and they're in their 30s, their 40s, and it's like finally we've reached a level of understanding.
Exactly. A lot of rationale, a lot of reasoning.
It's crazy to think that in e-fedding.
I know. And, everybody's they're just laid back. There's a few people. Well, we'll talk about B when we get there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, B. I'm kidding, B. You're my brother. But no, everybody's laid back. They're cool. They understand. They get it. They all have the same problems, or they have their own problems that they deal with, and they deal with it in an adult way, and it makes my life so much easier that I'm not getting hounded by a bunch of immature people. So
you find Shoot Project, you come back to the game, you decide this is the place I want to check out, I want to do it. Talk about the transition from the fedding you were used to the new style of play.
Well, it took a while to get used to. Well, I don't want to say a while. It took a couple of days really to get used to Shoot Project, just observing what was going on. They have the ability to role play, so I'm still used to that, and I still do it. I probably role play more than I should, and I probably write more than I should when it comes to role playing. I'm still working on a role play right now that it's too long. Josh is even, they all tell me, one of the big things is I'll ask, hey, what do you think about my role play? And they're like, well, one reason why I haven't read it is this, and then they'll send me a snapshot of 6,000 words. It's like, how dare I write that much, and I get that. It's too much for a Fed that doesn't really require it.
Sure.
But I love telling a story, and that's what I'll do. But I really also enjoy writing segments for shows, and I don't do it enough.
Same.
And I need to get better at that, and I think I will as the future goes on. But that's what I really like about Shoot, is that's really what he's looking for. He's looking for your participation, and he's looking for what you can do to make the shows better.
Mm-hmm.
Not, role plays are great. They add to your story. But
it's character development.
But it's all character development. It's all, hey, look, we got a show. I got a ton of these. He's going to take a lot of time recording all these matches, and the matches are going to be sweet because Fire Pro does a lot of cool stuff, and it's really unpredictable. But what can you do in between a lot of these matches to make the shows better? Because that's what a lot of people are also looking for. I know it's reading, but you can watch a really awesome match, for Revolution, Shoot Pop Pop.
Shoot Pop Pop.
And then read an amazing little segment that's written. And I say little, but MJ writes some pretty good segments for shows.
Yes, he does.
And B is the same. I mean, all of them. Everybody that's a part of Shoot right now they do really, really, really good segments for the shows. Actually, Joe, Ned Reform, Pat Cassidy, he puts together a lot of really good segments for shows too. But everybody does a really good job at least trying to make those shows better.
I know over in Defiance, Joe's been there for quite some time now. He's built quite the reputation over in Defiance as a great writer. But I think the number one thing he's known for is a mid-show segment. and it was a whole singing deal that we all enjoyed, and I think it won segment of the year in Defiance's year-end awards. But
Oh, good for Joe.
Long story short, Joe is a great writer. I'm glad he's made the transition from Defiance into Shoot. I wish he would transition all the way into Shoot. No, I'm kidding, buddy. But let's talk about C.K. Butcher, how the character was made. This is a character that you've made for Shoot Project?
Shoot Project official.
Yes.
Yeah, he's never been used anywhere else.
So what's the thought process? What's the gimmick? How do you get into the mold for C.K. Butcher?
Sure. So C.K. Butcher is, and I've mentioned this before in chats on Shoot, and I've mentioned it in passing, and I've told, I think I mentioned it to Eddie before, because Eddie and I, if you haven't met Eddie before in Shoot, he doesn't get out much, but Eddie handles Nate Robideau and the Unholy Cyber Army, which is one of the coolest fucking tag teams you'll ever read in E-Fetting. They're basically Hawk and Animal, volume up to past 11. But anyway, I was telling Eddie that C.K. Butcher was just a 5-minute creation that I really had no idea what I was going to do with him. And, the CK actually, I was like, you know what? I need a name. So the butcher part comes from me. I've helped butcher animals in the past. My father-in-law has had cows and turkeys and chickens and sheep, and they basically have a farm, and I've helped him butcher. It's almost like a rite of passage to become the son-in-law, was to help him do that. So and I've learned a lot about living off of the land and stuff from him, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just use butcher.
Sure.
Why not?
Badass name.
And then CK is the initials of my kids. So
nice.
C and K.
Yeah.
Although in story it stands for, C is Conway, and I have mentioned what K stands for. I'm not going to get into that now because that becomes that's a storyline thing that comes later. But anyway, CK Butcher started off as just CK Butcher. There was really I had no idea what I wanted to do with him. And the first role play I wrote introduced his mammoth, disgusting older brother he's a younger brother, but he's big, and he's like 7'4" or something like that, and his name is Alden. And I was like, I guess I'll just introduce a family, like I said, I mentioned the oddities.
Yep.
And it was kind of like I'll flow off of that, but he was just kind of like a blind shot in the dark. And then over time he became this really evil, gruesome character who unburies his dead mother, and
has become well known within Shoot Project.
Yes, of doing really, really odd things, and of course having some pretty psychedelic and tripped out role plays where I've got one where his younger brother is being crucified but is also on Datura, and there's this huge psychedelic scene where he's you'd have to read it, Mikey.
You'd have to read.
You have to read it
over at shootproject.com.
Over at shootproject.com. .com. But so CK Butcher, he starts off as basically nothing and grows into this character that becomes the villain of the year. Well, he is the villain of the year, but he shares that role with 2 other people. Screw all of you for voting for 3 people for villain of the year. But
wasn't that way in the top 100.
No, I was 38.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 38. But he grows into this character that everybody just hates and just is disgusted by, and he's so full of just filth, and it's weird because it's not me, because I'm a real positive guy, and then all of a sudden, because I think Joe actually asked me, he asked a pretty good question. We'll get to that later, but I don't know where it comes from. Sometimes maybe I'm drinking too much when I'm writing, but. I pull the darkest shit out of my psyche and just kind of throw it onto Google Docs and see what sticks, and everybody seems to really like it. But I also enjoy writing, so it makes it a lot easier. So, but that's CK Butcher. He kind of, like all of us, just kind of came from nothing.
Started as just a menagerie in your head,
yeah,
and then eventually formed his own character.
Really, it wasn't even a menagerie in my head. It was just kind of. I need a character for Shoot. What the fuck do I come up with? You know, I mean, I was gonna go with some sort of really devious idiot, you know, that was just gonna run around. But then I was like, yeah, I'll go with CK. And then Eddie was contacting me about that same night when I came up with him. He's like, so what does CK look like? And I'm like, he hasn't changed in almost a year, and he still looks like a fucking Scott Norton, you know, Scott Norton with red and black tights, short tights, you know. So, and I do want to change him eventually, but he's kind of trademarked.
All right, so you're in Shoot Project now. You've come up with the CK Butcher character. It's evolved into what you want to run with. Talk to me about your highlights in Shoot. Talk to me about what CK Butcher has done since he started and where you are today.
Well, it really all goes, it kind of starts going with, I mentioned Eddie, and Eddie kind of brought me into his realm, and he's helped build the CK Butcher character to what it is now.
Okay.
And a lot of the role plays and a lot of the segments, the feud with Nate Robideau, who is kind of like the manager in a sense to the Unholy Cyber Army. He's like the right-hand man. But that feud brought out a lot of where CK Butcher is now, and it also kind of really helped push that Nate Robideau character into the direction where it is now. Where it is now. And that feud was all designed to open some of the Pandora's box for the Nate Robideau character. It's a mouthful of the last name. And I think I'm saying it correctly. But it really opened up that Pandora's box where it brought out a lot of his past issues, and it broke him down, and it made CK Butcher look like the villain that he needed to be. And I really appreciate Eddie giving me that opportunity to be the person or be the character that I am now. I don't want to be that person, but I definitely I enjoy the character and where it's at. But that feud starts pretty early on in my run, April, May, June, July-ish. And then at Redemption, which is cool because in they have a Redemption Rumble, and the winner of that goes on to like the WrestleMania, which is Reckoning Day, to be the number one contender.
Okay.
Just like Royal Rumble.
Yep.
And I enter in like at the 10th to the last guy and go straight for Nate Robideau. Fire Pro. The Fire Pro gods at its finest. There's all kinds of crap going on. There's all kinds of characters in that ring. And who does CK Butcher go after? Nate Robideau. And they're fighting, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of storyline that just is happening right there. There's other feuds that are kind of having at it too. Yeah. Which, once again, Fire Pro. If you're into it, it's unpredictable, but at the same time, it like the universe just collides and it meshes so well. But CK Butcher and Nate Robideau start going at it, and he eliminates Nate Robideau. And that's at like the very beginning stages of that feud. And then all the others, you see, I start eliminating a couple other people, and it comes down to just me and Excalibur, who is MJ's character. And Excalibur has won the Redemption Rumble 2 times.
Wow.
Over the last 20 years of Shoot Project. And here I am, I'm a couple of months in, and after a nice few minutes of back and forth between the two as the final 2, I threw him over the ropes, and boom, CK Butcher is the number one contender. I did not expect it. I did not think. I remember Tim, who controls Jacob Mephisto, he's like number 98 on the Top 100 Countdown. He was messaging me that night, and I'm at work, and he's like, "Hey, have you seen Redemption? Or have you seen that yet? Have you watched any of it?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't gotten there yet. What's going on?" And finally, I get home and I watch it, and I'm like, "Holy shit! I did not expect that." So now I have this kind of burden on my, I'm right there on my plate, and I'm like, "Shit, I'm the number one contender." And I continue my feud with Nate Robideau, in which he ends up winning overall, which he needed, because as a villain, I'm opening up a lot of BS in his past, and I get him to a point where he's crying in the ring, and basically found out that he murdered accidentally killed a guy in the ring when he was in his past, when he was young. And it just brings out all this nonsense that he doesn't want to deal with, which was a fun story. Like I said, Eddie's really, really good at helping you push a good story. And then after that, it was on to feuding with B, who controls Buck Dresden, the crotch emoji that has made its way into the Efed podcast Discord.
Yes.
The Muriel Puddings crotch emoji.
Love that.
That has made its way in there. But now I'm still working with B with it's Buck Dresden and CK Butcher, and he has been around forever. He's probably got a rap sheet of success in Efeding a mile long. And, I've won the Redemption Rumble. I haven't won anything else. I've won a few matches. Where I am now, I've been voted Villain of the Year, Rookie of the Year, or Newcomer of the Year for the Shoot Project Awards. B gave me his Role Player of the Year award because he really enjoys my writing, which I appreciate. I was number 38 on the Efed Podcast Top 100. But I haven't done anything else. I have no titles, except for number one contender to the Shoot Project World Heavyweight Championship. So really, in the long run, compared to B, and I have one world title to my name that I don't even bring up because I won it and the Fed shut down. It's really the only title I've ever won in Efeding, over time. And I've told them before that there's been Efeds that I've been in where I've only won like 8 matches out of like 20. It is what it is. I have fun with it. But my biggest success, honestly, is just being able to coexist with people who are going through so much and being there for them and trying to
create relationships.
Yeah, learn from them, have them learn from me. Because I'm going to be honest with you, Shoot Project, actually, there's been a couple of times where I have kind of second-guessed my existence with the Shoot Project. And I was like, I might just drop off a little bit and focus more on my writing and not participate so much in the Discord. And they beat the shit out of me with, like, literally in text. Mm-hmm. With a sock full of imaginary quarters, just beat the crap out of me with love and respect, and they just wanted me there. And I never got that anywhere. I never would have expected that from people who really don't know me.
You've finally moved past the competitive aspect of the game. You're not competing to where you need to be the best, you need to be the winner. Now you're competing on a level where you want to have fun with your friends.
Yeah, and it's not even competition. It's just I love where everybody is and where they are in their life. And I hate to use the term love because there's a couple of people that I talk to on a normal day-by-day basis who are struggling.
Yep.
And I try my best to just give them, as much positivity as I can because I want them to succeed. And I think that took a long time for me to learn, and I'm glad I learned that outside of Efeding, that I want people to succeed. And I don't want to see people fail. I don't want to see people struggle. I don't want to see people down because I've been there. My story, personally goes deeper than a lot of people's, and where I'm at now, I would have never have expected. And I don't regret anything getting to where I'm at, but I really would love to help people as we move forward. And, I like to have fun and shoot and say really stupid things, really crazy things. But most importantly, I want to pull people aside and do what I can to build them back up. Even if it's Josh, the main person in charge, whatever I can do to put a smile on his face, even though I can never see it, or make him laugh, whatever I can do to just kind of add a little more positivity, because everybody deals with something. There's always a problem out there, and especially in Efeding, everybody disappears because of some sort of problem.
Yep.
And I've been there, I've seen it happen, and I want to do what I can to kind of keep people in that shoot pop mind frame and be in that Discord, have fun, but don't say stupid stuff, because trust me, a lot of the shoot guys will call you out on it. But I love what I've learned from everybody. Like I said, B actually kind of like Heidenreiched me up against the proverbial door and got me to open up to him in a private message. We had this nice back and forth where he was, where he told me who he was, I told him who I was. And it's like, dang, I love being around people like that. I love being around people who, they want you to be there, but they want you to be real.
Yep.
They want you to not just be this character that you've created, but be Ben.
Yeah.
Or Ben 2.
Show me Ben and show me your creative mind too.
And that's what you want, in the long run. That's what you're looking for. I mean, there's so many people out there in imaginary Efed funland where they're just going to lie and tell you all kinds of BS, but... Mm-hmm. I'm here. I'm real. I'm in the flesh. This is what I'm going to give you. I'm going to have as much fun with it as possible. I do, in the long run, have a goal with my writing, and shoot has given me the opportunity to just meet other real people. Josh is real as it gets. B is as real as it gets. Azareth, who is Ben 1, I'm Ben 2. He's Ben 1. He's as real as it gets. I mean, these people are no lie. No bullshit, brass tacks, real fucking dope people. So
shoot pop.
Shoot fucking pop. Cheers to that.
You love to see it.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, that pretty much wraps up what we got going on for your Efed career. Before we get into these Twitter questions and Discord questions, let's tell a funny story.
Oh, yeah.
About when you and I started talking.
Yes.
And what happened soon thereafter. So Ben and I started talking on the Discord when he became, I want to believe, one of the first people to transition from shoot into my Discord.
Yeah, followed Josh into it, yep.
And so we had a good conversation. Obviously, there was good rapport, and I thought Ben was awesome. Problem was, I didn't know who Ben was. Ben told me where he was from. We found out that we both lived very, very close by to each other. Obviously, that's why Ben's here. And we found out that, hey, maybe we can be friends outside of this weird hobby. So we friend each other on Facebook, or so I think. I get a message and a friend request from a gentleman from Maslin, and I say, oh, this must be Ben. And I send the guy a message, and I say, hey, are you from Shoot? And he says, well, yes, I am. And I say, great, that's awesome, because otherwise this would be a really awkward conversation. And I went on and talked to the guy for a week or so. And I have no idea who this was, but it was from Ben's hometown. But eventually I find out talking to him, he's like, oh, you know my name, Mikey. So I say it in chat, yeah, you're...
Nick.
Yeah,
Nick.
And he's like, no, that's not my name. And I'm like, yo, yeah, that's your name. You messaged me on Facebook. I know your name. Long story short, I was catfished by a gentleman on Facebook who there pretended to be from Shoot, because that would be some reason we have to talk, I guess.
That's weird as
shit.
shit.
It was not Ben here. It was, in fact, some weird Nick.
Yeah, because I remember you had mentioned the name Nick, and I'm sitting back, I'm like, what the fuck? Who? Why are you calling me Nick? But I mean, people have called me by the wrong name before in the past, so I'm not really too worried about it. But then you start showing me screenshots of this chat that you're having with some guy named Nick, and I'm like, what in the hell? Who in the hell is this guy? I'm like, dude, that's not me. That is not me. I'm Ben.
And I thought you were playing a joke on me.
No joke whatsoever. I don't know who Nick is. He didn't look familiar at all, and I know almost everybody from where from 35 minutes down south. I know almost everybody in that town. I've never seen that guy. I see people come into my restaurant all the time. I've never seen that guy. So, yeah, you need to contact MTV and have
I've been catfished.
Yeah, you've been catfished. But I heard he blocked you, or he
No,
unfriended you.
I've since unfriended him. Long story short, I once messaged him because I was coming into your restaurant. And I said, hey, man, are you working? And he said, yeah, I have a job. And so we miscommunication. Ben and I are now Facebook friends.
And he has come and seen me.
And I have come and seen him at the restaurant, and we are now hanging out in person. So
That's right.
Very cool.
It's weird how the universe works. And when he showed me that, I was blown away. But at the same time, I'm glad that it worked out the way it did. I'm glad that you weren't like, kind of
Weirded
brought
out.
into some sort of like dark parking lot,
Yes.
and beat up by a bunch of dudes or something, But,
No, it was a lot of fun, and when we did get to meet Ben, it was a great time. So I'm sure it's not the first Efed catfishing, but it certainly is the most memorable for me.
God, I'm sure everybody out there has been catfished in Efeds,
Mhm.
or have at least, found somebody out there that they start talking with, and next thing you know, you find out it's not, it's not who you thought it was. So,
well, let's get into these questions from the crowd. I'm excited to bring them to you.
me too. I'm excited to hear them. Well, I've seen them.
You've seen them, but now you get to answer them.
I do.
Up first is Meg.
Hi, Meg.
Meg says, shoot, pop, pop.
Shoot, pop, pop.
Shootproject.com.
Yeah, baby.
What do you think about today's climate in e-fetting?
It's a good question because I really don't venture out of Shoot or the Efed podcast all that much because I'm always in the Discord for both. But from what I've seen out of the feds that are basically affiliated with the Efed podcast, it doesn't seem like a bad climate. I have heard of all kinds of crazy Efeds out there though. Some of the Efeds where people record their promos on like YouTube and stuff like that. That's interesting. I was not aware of any of that.
We were recently, if you check out E-Wrestling Tees on Twitter, that's efedtees.com. You can check out the new WEW shirt. Actually, a promo fed on Twitter recently got a hold of us, and their guys are ready and excited to wear their EWTs while they do their promos.
Interesting. So wait, they do that on YouTube.
They do it on YouTube, or I'm sorry, on Twitter.
On Twitter, okay.
So they record videos, they upload them to Twitter, and they will soon be wearing their official EWTs merchandise of their own fed and their own characters on video.
That's wild. There's so many different concepts out there, and I'm not used to that because, I'm.
I was not used to the Shoot Project concept until eFed podcast came around. So
yeah, and once again, joining Shoot, when I joined Shoot, I was thinking I was getting into a role play fed or even an angle fed because they kind of made it, they made a promotion that it was an angle fed. So I was kind of excited to say I'd mix the two best of both worlds, but there are some really crazy e-feds out there that, and I don't say crazy in a bad way because everybody enjoys
concept feds.
Yeah, they enjoy their creativity however they want to enjoy it. I am very happy with role playing and writing segments and not recording myself on YouTube. Although I would, but I'm not there yet.
We're gonna put you in front of the green screen before you leave here today.
Okay, I'm cool with that. But the current climate of e-fetting, I think we had touched base on how mature a lot of the people are and how reasonable a lot of the people are. I mean, from what I've seen through the e-fed podcast, there are some really, really cool people out there that make it very easy for you to enjoy what you do.
Yep.
The Fed heads in Defiance and how I listened to the Lee Best interview. He seems like a really cool cat. Brian and Tom over in Defiance, and I don't know who else runs Defiance.
Brian, Tom, and Seth. So
Seth,
you're very close.
Okay. Seth Burns.
Seth is Burns. As well as Roland plays a certain aspect as well.
And Roland's in Shoot Pop Pop.
Yep.
But everybody is at a certain age to where they accept what's going on in everybody's life because they know everybody has problems and they know that people are just doing whatever they can to have fun. And it's right now where I'm at, the climate of fetting is fucking sweet.
It's so good.
It's so good. I don't know. I that's a small bubble to venture out of though. I bet you if I jumped into the vortex and went deep into like the blacklist of e-fetting and found all the other e-feds that were out there because there's got to be more. I know there's more because there's always more.
Yes.
I would find some crazy shit. Yeah. And I'm happy where it's at now, where I'm at now.
There is in fact a NASCAR fit.
There's a NASCAR fit?
Where you role play And if you win, your driver wins the NASCAR race.
No fucking way. No fucking way.
I love Efeding, guys. Salute.
Salute. NASCAR Fed. Ricky Bobby.
Also from Meg, Cat Passidy or Pat Cassidy? Make your pick.
Ned Reform. No, Pat Cassidy. I mean, that's it. Cat Passidy is that's just Joe.
It's just Joe.
That's Joe.
And at the end of the day, we like Joe's characters more than we like Joe. Let's be honest here on the show.
Poor Joe. Poor Joe. No, Joe is fantastic.
Is one of the single coolest additions to Defiance in the last year. Yeah. Joe's come in. He's a ball of fire. He is so great. OOC.
Yeah.
Great personality, and he's helped me with classic wrestling too. So.
And he somehow gets a spotlight on my interview.
See?
That bastard.
I love Joe, and until I get him on the show, I'm gonna pop him in every interview.
You better be using the slammin' potato famine as one of your moves. I'm telling you right now.
The Splash Cassidy.
The Splash Cassidy.
That was so good.
That was a good one. No, I like Joe. Joe is he might have like the same concept that I've got where he's on his phone or something like that, but he's always around.
Yes.
He always has something to say,
which I love.
And it's never never bad.
It's always entertaining. Like even when he's not trying to be funny, he's funny.
He's a teacher, isn't he?
Yes.
He would be the best teacher to have.
Yeah.
At least I hope his personality's like the same out,
I'm sure he's a dick.
You think he's a dick? You think he's a dick?
Moving on here on the Efed podcast.
Sorry, Joe.
Up next is King Classic, your friend B.
Nah, Brandon Hughes, my boy.
Why does B inspire you so greatly?
Oh, B is all right. So Eddie once called me multitudes, a man of multitudes.
Okay.
And B is just there is nobody else out there like him. All right. He has gone through so much in life and in Efeding and wherever. And he's a teacher as well. But B is, he knows characters. He knows how to deal with people. He also does not deal with bullshit. And he will put you in your place faster than anybody you'll ever meet. Does he inspire me greatly? Well, he is one of the first to really ever get to know me. So I would assume so. Outside of you, of course, Mikey. But,
of course.
You know me in the flesh. B knows me.
Whoa! Don't put that out there.
Okay. Okay.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
That's a little. Is
that too exotic?
That's too physical.
Physical.
Yeah.
All right. None of that. So anyway, but B knows me through shoot as CK Butcher, as Ben 2. As a guy who is, backing up, B and I actually have an interesting interaction where I kind of made him mad, and I make B mad all the time. I make B mad all the time. He's always disappointed in Ben 2 and CK Butcher, and it's always fun to do.
We're gonna get there. That's his last question.
Yes,
so we'll get there.
But why does he inspire me so greatly? I'll just jump into that because he somehow has found a grip, a clamp on the Efeding hobby. Friends that continuously bring him in. Family that keeps him here. And he is so smart at storyline wrestling and at just this hobby that's why he's the Shoot Project World Heavyweight Champion. That's why he's been the World Heavyweight Champion in so many feds. That's why he is where he is today. He's super intelligent. He has fought to get where he is in real life outside of here. And I feel the same way about myself. So I feel like him and I are kind of like almost
brethren.
Brothers from another mother.
There you go.
Brother from another mother. But he's just I love talking to him. Albeit a lot of the time me and him are just kind of going back and forth and like beating each other up in text. But he's just a great guy and he knows it. He's told me before. I've told him, you're a great guy. And he'd be like, I know. It's cool.
The greatest guys know they are.
Yes. But that's why he inspires me so much. So,
How do you come up with the ways to be innovative in your writing and formatting, i.e., references, footnotes, etc.?
I went to Kent State University.
Okay.
Golden Flashes.
You and Dolph Ziggler.
Me and Dolph Ziggler and Nick Saban, one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. But I went to Kent State University and I wrote a lot. I was a history major, originally a secondary education major that transitioned into history, which B teaches history, by the way. But I'm not as historically smart as I want to be. But anyway, I wrote a lot of papers, so many. And being that our role play style is through Google Docs, I almost write my role plays like I'm writing a college essay or a thesis, or a dissertation. And that's where that comes from. You know, my writing stems from consistent reading. I read all the fucking time. Books, articles, you name it. I love books. I'm kind of a bibliophile in that regard. I collect a lot of books and I read a lot of books. It's really just a bouillabaisse of college and reading and just always writing. I'm always writing. So a lot of my inspiration behind my writing and my creativity is just kind of meshing my collegiate history with my character.
Nice.
It's kind of weird, but
hey, no, a lot of people use their education, they use their background and their position, either create a gimmick, a story, or they dive in with people personally. So it seems like that's the case here as well.
Exactly.
Very good. Up next from B, what do you like more, salted almonds or almond salt?
I feel insulted by it, to be honest. What a ridiculous question.
What a salty person.
He is a little salty, isn't he? He's salty that he has to feud with me, mostly. I guess salted almonds, because I don't know what almond salted is.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Move on, B. Move on.
How do you feel about the whole shoot pop pop thing, and why do you think it drives B so mad?
I think shoot pop pop is hilarious.
I think it's the best branding of this century.
You know, it isn't something that everybody thought would happen for shoot in 2020. That Brian would just randomly during the top 100 countdown
say pop pop,
just shoot pop pop. But I mean, you get it, right?
Everybody, and it's caught on.
It's catchy. It's catchy. Why does it anger B so much?
Yes.
It angers B because B is just an angry person.
Oh. What he doesn't realize is a good marketing opportunity when it slaps him in the face.
Yeah. Don't go there because he's going to attack you. He'll get you.
If you guys don't take shootpoppop.com, we are.
Well, did you notice that for shootproject.com that the title at the top bar did say
it said shoot pop pop?
Yeah, it said
great.
Shoot Pop Pop.
I love that.
Yeah, Josh he had fun with it. B is just once again classic in the name, right?
King classic.
So he's just a classic guy, and you know that doesn't roll with the whole classic shtick. So
classic pop pop.
Oh, B, I'm sorry, buddy. You're gonna attack me. No, I'm just kidding. He won't talk to me. Actually, he won't talk to me if he's gonna hear this, and then he's probably just gonna
no sell it.
He's gonna ostracize. Yeah, that's what he does. He no sells me so bad.
That's what they say. Good people who take ribs do.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be ribbed, you no sell them. Mm-hmm. So up next is his last question, and one we thought we were gonna get to. Speaking of him not talking to you, why is B so cranky all the time?
B cranky. B is cranky all the time because he's just an old man. He's an old man with kids, with a wife, that has to deal with Shoot Project and Ben 2 all the time, hounding him, asking him if he's okay, asking him all kinds of personal questions, having to deal with a bunch of stupid people constantly. All right. I don't want to say stupid people because people could take that the wrong way. But B is just he's not that cranky, honestly. He's funnier than shit. If you catch him in the Discord, he is going to say something that is so funny. And a lot of the time it catches me off guard because I wouldn't have expected it from him. But no, he's just cranky because of me. I'll blame me. I'm going to blame Ben too.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll blame me.
Up next is Cat Passidy.
Hi, Cat. Hi, Joe.
Why are you such a goddamn talented writer, you SOB?
I don't know. If you ask a lot of the people in Shoot, I consistently talk about how much I suck when it comes to writing. We can go back to the whole college thing. I did a lot of writing in college. I wrote all the time. I had a lot of really awesome professors and peers who read over my writing. So I'm consistently editing my stuff based on the past and what I know. I also read a lot. One of the big authors that I'm into right now is Cormac McCarthy, and his writing does not resemble mine at all. But his writing is so out there. His style is so odd, and I love it. But at the same time, it's just so hard for me to get out of my own shell for that to even come close to what Cormac McCarthy does. But I don't really consider myself a talented writer. It's really hard for me to answer that. I just kind of want to dive into why I write the way I do, So I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm weird. I'm a weird guy.
Well, let me stop you there because his next question is CK Butcher the result of releasing the pent-up aggression that only being in the weeds at a restaurant job can bring? So much on what you were just saying of why you write the way you write.
Yes and no. So, because being pent up in the weeds in a restaurant job does make somebody evil. Especially if you don't get a cigarette in, if you smoke cigarettes. And I don't smoke cigarettes, but I know 95% of my staff does. And if they don't get their cigarette break on time and they're they're in the weeds, they are a creature. And they are a force to be reckoned with. And they are like the worst creature to have to deal with. But yes and no. Yes, you learn from kind of how to deal with people in the restaurant industry. And I deal with a whole lot of crazy people, guests and team members, especially guests. There are you just can't imagine the laundry list of characters that you're going to run into when you're running a restaurant. But it's probably like 10% out of the 100% of what drives my character. Sure.
What's your favorite 90s boy band?
New Kids on the Block, baby.
Oh, really 90s.
Yeah. The Right Stuff.
Up next is John Thompson at TW Combat on Twitter. What do you consider your greatest accomplishment in the hobby?
Joining Shoe Project.
Nice.
Easy. There's no other way around it. I've done so much in multiple different feds that, and I say so much, but not a lot. And joining Shoe Project has been the pinnacle. I made the right move. So, yeah, joining Shoe Project has probably been the best thing that I've done in e-fetting. Absolutely.
What do you consider the most disappointing moment in the hobby?
Not joining Shoot Project back in 2001.
Just your experience now is so much better than it was then.
So much. Yeah. Like I said, dealing with all the mature people, knowing how to deal with people too makes it easy. But yeah, just not being able to grow with them kind of sucks. But I'm there now, so that's awesome.
If you could resurrect one of these 60s and 70s musicians so that they could put on one more show, who would it be? Jimi Hendrix, John Lennon, Jim Morrison, or someone else?
Ooh, that's tough.
Yep.
You got to think of who would probably have like the best show now.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously nobody because of COVID, but
it'd be a virtual Zoom show.
Yeah, terrible. But if you didn't have all that garbage, obviously. So out of the three that he mentioned, probably Jimi Hendrix.
I'm a big fan of all three.
I do like all three. Yeah.
And I'm a big Jim Morrison fan.
Sure.
For a lot of reasons. Yeah. But I think Jimi Hendrix playing Voodoo Child while Hulk Hogan comes to the ring while he's still alive.
Standing next to a mountain. Chop it down.
How awesome would that moment be? Just chills.
I mean, there's that. But think of the things that he did on stage.
Yep.
I mean, well, all three of them, as you'd mentioned,
yep.
Phenomenal. I read that question before getting here, obviously, and the one thing I was thinking of, I love the Beatles are one of my favorite.
Yeah, they're great. I love the fucking Beatles.
And
the Doors.
John Lennon is one of the greatest writers musically.
Yep.
And he's so talented. But then you got John Morrison.
Yep, the Doors.
And his poetry, his writing.
The power ballads where their songs would go 10 to 15 minutes long. It was
Yeah.
just rocking out.
So all three of those actually, well, honestly, Jimi Hendrix, I had the least amount of experience with. But
Yep.
my parents were big into the Doors. I still have a couple of vinyls of the Doors. But the Beatles, I have my mom's original copy of the White Album, which is more of the Cream album now because it's so old. I have Rubber Soul. I have Abbey Road. I like John Lennon. I do think if he were alive today, things would be different with the Beatles and with Paul McCartney and everything that McCartney has done. That obviously isn't the case. But I think as far as a show goes, as far as putting on a performance, Jimi Hendrix is probably your guy. I say that because I went to a concert back in 2006 at Blossom Music Center. I went to go see Breaking Benjamin. They were opening for Three Doors Down. I wasn't going to stay for Three Doors Down because I'm not a Three Doors Down guy. But when Three Doors Down came on stage, we all stuck around. Their production